Tahani Aburaneh.
You got it.
It is so nice to finally meet you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you too.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I was the one who Googled you. I put in real estate thought leader and you came up. And your bio is far too long for me to verbally say. It'll all be in the description, of course. However, I thought what really stood out when I Googled you was you are a real estate investing coach, thought leader. You are a TEDx speaker. You have an Amazon bestseller. And you have an incredible podcast. And you are someone that is all about empowering women, especially as of late. You have something exciting that you're launching.
Yes.
We'll get to that. But hey, great to meet you. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Paula. Great to meet you too. And I'm looking forward to sharing everything we can with you listeners, with your listeners.
Yes, we have so many different listeners, realtors, mortgage brokers, different entrepreneurs, and of course, entrepreneurial homebuyers. So most people are shaped by their struggles. And we talked about that when we were having our pleasant lunch before this, right? So, I mean, listening to your TED Talk, you came, struggles were ingrained into, your way of life, and you have to get over that pretty quickly. So why don't you talk about how your past struggles have shaped who you are today? And, I think just think about, we're in a time where we're just getting over a pandemic. And people have had a lot of challenges, especially realtors and people that have been commission only, entrepreneurs.
Yes.
So talk about, eventually we're going to connect how they can look at struggles as an opportunity to grow. But tell us your story. It's super fascinating. And you can, of course, talk about some of the more recent struggles in this, of course, real estate investing world, which can be difficult if you're not well educated and you don't have the right grit to get through it all. So tell us your story of struggles to where you are now.
100%. I mean, more about my story in the TEDx talk. So if anyone wants to know the details about the story, but I was born in a refugee camp, and age 15, my whole path of my life changed, and not because of a decision I made for myself, but because of a decision that my dad made for me, and that is to marry me to a man that I've never met or talked to or seen before.
Bizarre.
And to send me to a country called Canada. So,
land of opportunity.
Land of opportunity. And at that point, as a 15-year-old young girl, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to do. I was crying and gonna leave my mom and my dad. But the one thing that right away it did for me is that it made me understand the word adaptability or being adaptable. And that's where, change is good sometimes, whether you choose to make the change or someone else makes it for you, the pandemic, the change that was also, happened.
Is that just change or a forced acceleration?
There you go. It's really being adaptable is what's going to get you through all these things. So, and resilience comes from one challenge after another, and I'm sure some of your listeners, we should say not all, some of them have maybe had some of those periods where, oh my gosh, I've talked to this client says no, another client no, and it's easy at that time to say I give up. But being resilient is when you don't give up and you say, what is it that I'm doing that's not working, and what else can I do to pave a different way so that it doesn't seem as hard or doesn't seem as difficult, right?
Attitude, really.
It is 100% how you see, is this glass half full or half empty?
Very strategic of you.
There you go. You see that?
That was all planned. Don't lie.
But really, that's what it is. It's really attitude and outlook and how you see things. If you're gonna believe your life is hard, then guess what? More hard things will come your way. But if you believe that you're a creative genius and you're gonna find ways to get through anything and everything, then your creativity juices will start flowing, and then you'll find ways to get out of whatever you are right now challenging that's keeping you or giving you a hardship.
Taking a leap of faith and then understanding that a goal you set should be malleable. It should be something that if you don't hit it,
flexible,
you learn from it. And let's be honest, who actually hits their goals perfectly to the T? That's not even really the exercise, right? It's not about that. It's It's about setting an intention and something tangible enough that you can break down into bite-sized bits
Yes.
and do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and it's all very iterative. So as long as the goal is there to motivate you and tie it to your why, and to also make tangible enough to chip away at every day, then you have these big little breakthroughs over time.
I
So that's super cool.
also think all of that is incredible, but I also think it's about who we become in the process to get to where we want to go.
Of course,
Because
yeah.
really, life is about growing.
Yeah.
And we are learning and we're growing through, whether it's the book, whether it's clients, whether it's
course.
business. So really, sometimes it's good to look at the whole situation and say, what is happening here? Am I standing in my own way to
Yeah.
get to that goal?
Yeah.
Or what am I learning about myself to get to that goal?
Right.
You know,
100%.
and that's very important to really stand and reflect and see what is happening for you internally and personally.
I'm glad you brought up that topic,
Yeah.
because that is a great segue into daily habits. And you're talking about people, like, reflection is hard because people are so busy in what I call the grind, the inertia of just being burnt out and just being slammed, and there's so much noise you have to wade through these days. And that's why I think like meditation studios are especially popular now, and you've got all kinds of health and wellness brands and infrastructure coming out because people just need solitude. But you can, if you got a park close by, you can find solitude if you put in the effort. So how do you carve out ways to find flow, a sustainable way to get through those tough times, whether it's a challenge or just the everyday back-to-back meetings and business challenges? I think this ties well into, like, you've got a huge woman empowerment network through real estate. Maybe you can start to intertwine, I guess, how you do it personally and then how you do that for some of your people that are, of course, coachees and clients and partners. So I'll get into the bigger picture.
Yes, I mean, when you run so many businesses,
Yeah.
you have to be very, very efficient
course.
with your time and
Yeah.
with your timing. First of all, what time of the day that you are most efficient?
Yeah.
Is it early in the morning? Is it in the evening? There's people, they say, I start, my creativity starts, going on like later on in the evening. Or for me, I am done. Like comes 8
Me
p.m.,
too.
I'm gone, but I'm an early riser. That's when I'm
Versus
mostly
the lights.
alert. Yeah.
Yes.
So I love waking up early with the sun, and I love,
Yeah.
doing all these things.
The great book
Then-
called When by Dan Pink. He talks
Oh.
about the timing, the science of timing, and
Oh, thank
he does
you for
a big
sharing
study
that.
around that. One of them actually is let's say you're an early bird or a lark, or it doesn't really matter. In one aspect of the study, if you're doing, let's say, in the context of a lot of our viewers, you're reviewing a contract. You have to be very analytical. There's zero creativity in this context. Versus you're doing a YouTube video or a blog post, and you got to be creative. What part of the day are you better equipped, assuming you're well rested and all that, to do either or? Well, the analytical tasks that don't require much creativity, first thing in the morning. So there's an expression called "eat the frog." That's when you have the
eat the
most
frog, yeah.
willpower, and that's when your mind is just more analytical and more focused. Now, to be creative, you can't be too tunnel vision, because otherwise you're almost too cut and dry, which is easy to do when you're doing so many transactions. So later on in the afternoon or later on in the morning, your creative tasks are more optimal.
Interesting.
Too
Thank you
late
for
in the
sharing.
afternoon, there's too much noise from the outside world. Your brain is not going to be present and in deep work. Anyway, small segue. I will link to it in, of course, the description. Continue on this incredible.
Thank you for
momentum
sharing
you're on. Of
that.
course.
Thank you for sharing that. Yes, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course, yeah, good tip.
Yeah, good tip. Exactly. I'll look into that book as well,
sweet.
and for anyone that's also listening, it's great. I mean, books is a big, that's,
Yes.
when you don't have the money to hire coaches, that's your best way is going through books. I remember when my first book
Yeah.
got published by Wiley and Sons, and I remember this one guy who sent me a tweet. Actually, it wasn't even like anything, and he said in there that, oh my God, I read your book, it was so unbelievable, it was great, and it just gave it.
Wow.
And the only thing that really stuck in my head is that I read it in 2 hours, and I'm like, this is like a life experience. This is years, decades of being a realtor and learning how to work with real estate investors. And I was able to put it in a book, and someone is able to read it in 2 hours and act upon it.
It's pretty insane, the gifts that are there, huh?
So if anyone, like, I mean, there is no excuses. If you don't have the money to hire a coach, then your best bet is to really read a book, and the most important is really to act on it.
Exactly. That's what sometimes gets missed. When I was in New York recently, I started a habit of reading a book in the morning at a cafe before any stressful emails came my way. And what I would do is, do you ever like highlight your books?
Yeah, I always.
Okay, a lot of people don't, and that wasn't me, because
always.
Especially if you buy like a nice expensive book, you're like, I want to keep smelling good. I want to just leave it as is. But that's actually the wrong way to look at it. It's almost like the cost of being a perfectionist in this world. I think that in most professions aren't worth it. So I started to highlight things I thought were interesting. At the end of the chapter is I stop and I go back and just read the highlighted portions, and then I write the takeaways relevant to me. So I've never done that. It's a new hack. So are you synthesizing the information correctly? Are you present? Are you highlighting? Are you writing down? And then is that going to make it into your workflow?
Yeah, and
depends on how you plan your weeks. That's a whole different process. You gotta retain it. You gotta
100%. And also, it depends on where you're at in life.
Right.
We both can read the same book, and you will maybe get different things, or different things will resonate with you than it would for me.
Your lens is different, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, and that's why, it's important to really do or see what really resonates with you, and then take action upon that.
Do you reread any books, and have you seen some books that you've seen differently with, I don't know.
I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't reread.
I barely do it either, but
I know
want to do more of it.
A friend of mine, she has a few books that she keeps on reading and reading and reading and reading all over, but I haven't.
Okay.
No. I'm like, what's next?
Homework? Yeah, I know. Homework for both of us, right? And I guess a whole other topic too around like the what's next. We have so many distractions. An entrepreneur, you've got to be super focused. Mm-hmm. Like Steve Jobs was famous for saying, focus is all the things you say no to. That's focus. It's not about choosing the right idea. What do you say no to? So how do you say no? And do you have like a system on, like, let's say in situ, you've got clients calling you left, right, and center. You've got team members asking you for things on Slack. You got, the book publishers being like, hey, we need this. How do you plan your week / plan your days, and like what kind of guards do you put up and boundaries do you set to say no to people in a way that is respectful but also aligned with your vision of where you're going?
That's awesome.
Hardest thing, right?
Yeah, awesome question again. It's really, I look at my whole year.
Yeah.
I go with 3 goals for the whole year.
Okay, cool.
And then once I know the goals, then I kind of say, okay, when do I want to accomplish these goals? And then then go back again to 4 months.
Cool.
Split it. And then every 4-month periods, then again I go down. What is it gonna get me to the goal? Because it's always the goal in mind. I actually have a sheet that I share with everybody.
Cool.
You are always moving every day towards that goal.
Yeah.
Because maybe this year I'm building townhouses.
Right.
When I'm building those townhouses, it's not every day that I choose to do that. So now the goal is like, when am I gonna do that? What is the end date? What is gonna move me forward?
Sure.
Who are the teams that I'm gonna be talking to? So stay focused in that sense, because if you can accomplish 1 or 2 big goals every year, that's incredible.
Oh, massive, yeah.
That's massive, because that's gonna get you to where you want later on, right?
Of course.
But we tend to say, oh, we wanna be fit, and we wanna, move here, and we wanna help 100 clients, and all of it together, it becomes overwhelming.
Yeah.
And when you get overwhelmed, it almost becomes, well, you're like, what do I do next? I can't do, it's too much. And
paralyzed a little bit.
Exactly. So for me, I keep chopping
Yeah.
down of what I need to do every single day to get that. Sometimes you don't have to do it daily. So you can do it weekly.
Sure.
Like weekly, you could have like.
You've got these 3 goals written on your mirror, or like is it like on a worksheet?
In my office.
Okay.
In my office.
It's got to be in front of you. If it's
Whiteboard.
on like a digital
Whiteboard.
note, it's going to get lost. It's got to be physical.
Whiteboard.
It's there. Gone.
And I am accountable also not only to myself but
Right.
also to my team to say, what did I do this week to get closer to that?
Could you like bring them into the room? All right, guys, hold me accountable. How do you?
As a team, because we're
Okay.
all working on the
Right.
same goal, right? I mean, it is my goal, but really I
Yeah,
hire
it's a team
these
goal. Cool.
team to
They're very
support
well aware
me,
of it.
to get there. Now, I could hear some of these realtors saying, but I don't have a team. That's fine, you know, like
Yeah.
if you were to have a team, or if you could imagine a team around you,
Right.
how would you hold yourself accountable to getting
Sure.
there?
Sure.
So visioning.
Yeah, and that's actually a great side topic on if you want to eventually get out of the grind and have a life, you need to grow a team to some extent. Or you can be super efficient with your time, and we talked about relative income, right? What's your effective dollar per hour? So if you get really efficient and you make a cool $300,000 a year and you work, I don't know, 30 hours a week and you've got an assistant, sweet.
Yes.
That's just fine. But you've got to, I always think like, what I'm doing now, especially if I don't like to do it, what's the exit plan?
Exactly.
Is it going to be, it's either going to be like, I eventually don't do this, this has an expiry date, or I'm going to have someone come in and do it for me.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly. You have to almost strive to get, like, to let your business serve you in a different way.
Yeah.
That is so important. Since I am, called upon as an expert in the real estate investment world, and that's what my book is,
Yeah.
I encourage everyone, young, older, anyone, to really think of their job
Yeah.
as a way to make money, so that you can take that money, put it in a place so that it can make you more money. Because at the end of the day, if you choose to work, you can choose to work, but really you have to set yourself up to success so that you don't feel that that nervousness when there's no money coming in, or I haven't sold a house this month or next month, or the pandemic hit and what am I going to do to feed my kids?
Right.
So you have to always be thinking of, what can I do with my money that I make right now to make me more money later on?
Totally, and that's going to be, of course, a segue into real estate investing, which I'm sure we'll have some nice
Yeah.
anecdotes about. But to put a wrap on the topic of goal setting and saying no to reach those goals, how do you say no?
Oh, I say, so one of the most asked question is that, can I sit down with you for about an hour? Can you imagine
Whoa,
of
try
every
15 minutes, maybe.
Can you imagine?
right?
Can you imagine if I am okay to sit down? Like I used to,
Yeah, of
when I
course.
was not so
These
busy.
are students or new realtors or who?
New realtors, women investors that
Sure.
wanna, build wealth through real
Right,
estate
of course.
investing.
Yeah.
Realtors that aspire, to do what I've done. So they're like, can I have an hour of your time? Well, of course, I can't give them an hour. So I'll say, I'm sorry, I'm quite busy, but I'd be more than happy and willing to give you 15 minutes, but you need to let me know what is it exactly, specifically,
Yeah.
you want to be talking about, so that when we hop on a call, we're actually right there, and then they get served. I'm able to serve them,
Yeah.
and then, and some people, they only want an hour, and I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
can't just please everybody, right? So that's how it is.
People pleasing is dangerous, as you love to go.
Sometimes also grouping people together. So like I have sometimes a few people that want to ask the same
Mastermind.
question. Yes, if they want to ask a question or it's the similar question, then I just bring them all together and say, I've got this amount of time. Or sometimes I send them to my Facebook group and I say, I'll be on between this and this.
Your
Hop
questions, your
in.
pre-recorded things. Oh yeah, I talked about it on this episode. Here you go. Come with your questions once you've gotten the basics.
You got
right?
it. You got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
For sure, I operate very similarly. So I guess this sort of last segment here, I mean, we've got, of course, people have questions about real estate investing. This interview isn't exactly about that fully, but there might be some things let's put those into one question. I was going to ask, what are the biggest mistakes you see realtors do as they're getting going to build wealth? And with that, I could probably say, what are the biggest mistakes you see first-time investors doing in their investments, which could be the realtors. So how are you going to
Yes.
attack that? Let's wrap up with that.
Yeah, I have a lot of realtors that, kind of, I coach them on not just only being a realtor, really, but also have a mindset of a real estate investor.
Yes.
And the reason why is because we all, got into not all, most of the realtors get
Right.
into the business because they think, oh, you know what, real estate, we even talked about it right now. Real estate, you make so much money, right?
Right.
But really, it's not about making so much money, it's how much you keep and how much you invest,
Right.
and how can that serve you, your family, and your kids later on.
For sure.
So
Profit.
if there is an advice that I can give all the listeners, all the realtor listeners,
Right.
or non-realtor mortgage brokers, anybody,
Sure.
is that think that if I can maybe buy one extra property, and if they don't have one, maybe their first property,
Right.
and just within the next maybe 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Once you have that, then you can think, how can I buy a second property within the next 3 to 5 years? You
Yeah.
see how it becomes almost like easy if you really chunk it into 5 years versus, and you might think, oh, there's no way it's possible. No, I can't do
Right.
that because right now I'm just trying to make a dollar and
Yeah.
pay for my expenses. But I will challenge you is that if that's one of your goals and you start learning and you start, like, I've got the podcast or the Facebook group, and
Right.
we talk about ways that if you don't have money, how to use other people's money. So you get to
Right.
learn that thing so that it can get you to where you want. All I
Right.
wanted to say is that
Other
if
people's
there
money, meaning like
private lenders,
Mortgage
maybe
lenders,
well, you're a mortgage broker, so
you may know a few people that can.
you see
give
that
some good
that's
capital.
perfect. Having somebody like you on
Yeah.
their side.
Of course.
Do you know somebody who has maybe an extra $100,000 that I can borrow at whatever? Don't worry about the rate. Honestly,
Yeah.
like if that person wants 7, 8, 12%, give them that much percentage, because at the end of the day, you're gonna end up making more money as long as you know what you're doing. And
Interesting.
of course, because it's about the long term. The last conference I've had,
Yeah.
I had close to, I would say maybe 500 women show up.
Nice.
And I don't have the exact stats of how many women bought houses. That was before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Anyone who bought a house before the pandemic,
Yeah.
that maybe bought it for around 500,000, they could have got, if they wanted to sell it,
Right.
they could have sold it for maybe 300, 400, maybe even 500 more. So they've already doubled their 20% down payment many times over.
Yeah, and if it was a 12% interest rate that they're paying a year on that, I mean, it would not be quite as much as the profit, which means the key topic is if you're gonna be risky with your capital, and this is kind of my advice, if you're gonna go for private, you gotta have an exit plan, and you gotta make sure that the opportunity cost of what you're buying is gonna have a higher yield.
Exactly.
How about 'cause you
like
gotta
flipping. Flipping would be a great
Of course.
strategy to use if you're paying so much interest rate,
Right.
so that
Realtor
you're
fees,
in and
et cetera.
out
Yeah.
so fast, like
Yeah.
3 months, or sometimes 6 weeks,
Yes,
and you're in
of
and
course,
out of
right.
that, right?
Whole different topic, yeah.
Once again, I just wanted to say is that
Yeah.
you go with what is comfortable for you as a newbie real estate investor, or as a newbie realtor, or as an experienced even realtor.
Sure.
As a newbie realtor, you're only thinking maybe if I do 24 deals, then that's fantastic. But once you get to the 24 deals, then you say maybe 48 deals. Once you get to the 48 deals, then you say maybe, so that it's like a step. You climb up the step at a
ladder.
time. The ladder is step at a
But
time.
sometimes the goalpost goes dangerously in a certain way, whereas maybe people
How so?
compromise. I mean, like you want more, and if you haven't built systems, you burn yourself out eventually.
Yeah,
or you
of
forget
course.
about like being good family members. So I feel like there's a dark side to that as well. Where like you're always gonna want more.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
And
But what's fulfilling?
sustainable?
What's
Exactly.
fulfilling for you? And that's
Right.
why you have to understand who you are. And that's part of, you call it meditation, but really sitting silence and understanding who you are as a
Sure,
person,
reflection.
right? So
How do you reflect?
really sitting still and asking myself questions. For me, I love questions. I always have in my notes like questions, and they're meaningful questions that make me ask.
These are like prompts, like prompting
Yeah,
yourself questions. Okay,
exactly.
So, but like when you're busy, are you really gonna remember to look at those questions, or you might
I don't-
back to habits? When do you have
I
time to look
don't
at that?
exactly. I don't do them every minute or every
Sure,
hour.
sure.
I do
Weekly,
them.
monthly?
No, I do them before I sleep.
Okay.
And if it's something really, really important, I do them also before. Maybe I choose like 2 or 3 specifically for whatever else that I want it, to attract into my life. And I also ask myself those questions before I go on with the day. So questions,
Manifest.
manifesting. it's not
Journaling
really,
and manifesting,
it's almost
perhaps.
like it's not really visualization, but really for me it's all about feeling. I feel like it's everything. It's like, how is this gonna make me feel? Being in this house, how does it make you feel? Driving this car, how does it make you feel?
Right.
Sitting here with this person, how does it make you feel?
You feel
So
okay?
it's really, yeah, I feel great.
So
Thank
do I.
you.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's all about that. So that's what we need to get to the core of why you want what you want. People, may I also demonstrate this by saying some people want a Tesla or some people want an iPhone. Why? Because it makes them feel a certain way.
Yeah.
Because really an iPhone or a Samsung or
Sure.
they're all phones. You know, a Honda or a Tesla or a Mercedes, they're all cars.
Yeah.
But it's how you feel when you sit in that car.
Totally.
And that's the same goes for goals. Why do you want these goals?
Right.
Like if you say, for example, I want a maybe 70-unit high-rise apartment building. Why you want that?
Right. And you know the sacrifice it's going to take as well. There's always a cost to a goal as well.
Exactly.
Sometimes that people overlook when they set superficial goals. Right?
Exactly.
That's what we're talking
Exactly.
about. Yeah,
Exactly. So that's how I kind of choose my goals based on what feeling I want and what makes me feel, and then you go for them.
And that's a really relevant way to wrap up. And maybe put one last note on my end. If you're thinking about how do I attract more customers, I'm one of 50,000 realtors. Well, how are they going to differentiate you? It's going to be off, you know, you giving them part of your commission, or you know, basically playing the bottom of the barrel game? Probably not, or I don't want to play in that game. It's how do you make your customers feel when they are going through the experience with you on their first real estate investment
100%,
property.
yes.
So that idea of feeling, something that of course Apple and Tesla have gotten down to a science, but you can do that as well with your clients, and it's really about you, your hospitality, your service, all the things you might overlook.
Yes.
So that's actually a key thing I think we can give people as a
100%.
on how do you make your customers feel, and how often do you think about how you make them feel, and how often do you ask?
Yes, of course.
Right?
And how often you ask them? Yes,
Right,
you know,
feedback and things
like for
that.
example, why you want this condo, or why this condo, or like how does it make you feel being in this condo?
Yeah.
I also think it's really, you know, when you think of your business, don't think transactional.
Yes.
Also think of how can I educate? Because people, even though you can Google anything and everything on the internet or on YouTube, but people still want the human side of any transaction, and for you just act maybe more of like an educator versus a salesperson. This way you win your clients and you win them forever. I have clients, I never do all these like, you know, send them like a basket for Christmas and send them this for that. I don't do that because I know my clients come to me for the knowledge and for the experience I have. That's how I differentiate it myself. It's almost like you don't go to the doctor or your lawyer and you start giving them all kinds of gifts so that you're hoping that they can, you know, you continue. No, I have a different philosophy about that, and I feel that if you give enough and you know that these people that you are, you know, the information that you give, this is something that they want, and you, and also you can only find that out by asking more questions.
No kidding. Wow.
So it's all about asking questions. It's all about that, yeah.
Isn't it? I'm sure the viewers have plenty of questions. Let's put a wrap on, I don't know, like we talked about so much. We talked about, I'll wait for our friend, isn't it fun that we're outside?
Yes, it is actually. It's beautiful.
Spring at the Drake Hotel here. Okay, so in Toronto, Ontario. So we talked about resilience, struggles, failing forward, and like that's been bred into you, right? And we talk about getting those, I guess, almost like small wins, but taking those leaps of faith.
Yes.
And then starting to create goals and the habits to have more resilience, the habits to not forget about what's most important. We've covered a lot around, like, I think just personal growth.
Yes.
Of course, on your end, like, this book that's coming out, by the way, that was the news. We were sort of saying something's coming up soon. So you're launching this book. That's super exciting. You're being a global connector, and really, like, your audience is, you are helping a lot of women who you think are
lacking confidence,
and so capable of getting
so
out there.
capable.
So for the women that are viewing here, and even the men as well, what's an action step for them to take to get more into your world? Like a really easy action step to get into your
Of
community.
course, social media is the number one, and that is Instagram and or I have the fire or I call it the fire community,
Okay.
which is females in real estate on and Facebook.
Cool. I'll link to that.
Yeah. So and then you've got also I've got a podcast.
I know,
They can
I
go
saw
and
that.
listen. I mean, my goal was to make top 100 podcasts in real estate investing,
Okay.
which
Good focus.
is part of real estate, like another category, and real estate is part of the business. Well, the podcast made number 3 in all business.
Whoa,
Yeah, it was.
that's awesome.
Thank you. It
There
was
you go.
absolutely incredible.
Nice.
So definitely there is a huge demand for women. I know I'm focused more on women. I just want you to know that I've always helped men.
Sure. That's good.
But
you
I
don't want to feel too left.
No, not leftover. I have 7 brothers. I love them.
Wow.
7 brothers. I love them all dear to my heart, you know. But I also found that women lack confidence
Sure.
in taking or in their ability to take action. You know, it's not that they're not capable, it's just that they lack confidence thinking, oh, I can't do that. I can't be buying this house or 2 or 3 or 10 or whatever. And that's what I'm trying to show you, is that it's confidence comes from doing. And if you do, you know, you increase your confidence a little bit, go, oh, I just did that.
Yeah.
Oh, I just did that. Oh, I just did that, you
Like
know?
going to the gym, right? One day
Exactly.
it's super hard to do, and then later on you're like, oh, not bad. And
Yes.
your body's more adaptable than you give it credit for. isn't it?
100%, 100%. So that's what it's all about. So yes, social media, Facebook and everything. Yeah.
I've
you.
been writing down all the things I'm going to link
Thank
in the show
you.
notes. Tahani, it's been a true pleasure. I'm so happy you took my cold email. You're like, this guy seems kind of interesting. Let's go have some nice juices at the Drake.
Thank
and
you.
Talk about life, break bread, and really give people the real talk on how to ascend to a higher level, how to get out of the grind, how to become an investor, how to build confidence, how to be resilient. Thank you for your time. And for those
Thank
that are
you, Paul.
watching, please, as always, keep leveling up. You're living.
Yes,
Tahani, thanks again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invite
Pleasure.
and for everyone that's watching. Thank
We'll
you.
keep
Thank
watching.
you.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.